The Vanishing Reporter. Reflection of deceit. In the quiet town of Ashwood, an old house sat at the edge of the forest, shrouded in mystery and neglect. Known as the Mercer House, it had been abandoned for over a century, its dark windows and crumbling facade whispering tales of forgotten horrors. Locals avoided it, but its sinister allure drew the curious and the brave. Clara Bennett was a seasoned reporter with a knack for uncovering hidden truths. When she heard about the Mercer House, her curiosity was piqued. The stories of strange disappearances and eerie happenings were too enticing to ignore. Her editor, eager for a gripping story, assigned her to investigate the house's dark past. Equipped with a camera, a flashlight, and a sense of determination, Clara set off for Ashwood. She arrived at dusk, the dying light casting long shadows across the town. The house loomed in the distance, an ominous silhouette against the darkening sky. Clara pushed open the rusted gate and made her way up the overgrown path. The front door, surprisingly intact, creaked open with a reluctant groan. Inside, the air was thick with dust and decay, the remnants of a long-forgotten life scattered about. Clara switched on her flashlight, the beam piercing the darkness. She wandered through the rooms, taking notes and photographs. The house felt unnaturally cold, and a sense of foreboding settled over her. As she ventured deeper, she found herself drawn to an ornate, full-length mirror in the parlor, its glass surprisingly clear despite the dust-covered surroundings. The mirror was framed in intricately carved wood, depicting scenes of otherworldly landscapes and twisted figures. Clara felt an inexplicable pull towards it, as if the mirror itself was calling to her. She stood before it, her reflection staring back with an unsettling intensity. As she reached out to touch the glass, a cold chill ran down her spine. Her reflection's eyes seemed to darken, and before she could react, the mirror's surface rippled like water. Clara felt a force grip her and pull her in. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. Clara found herself in a dim, shadowy realm, a twisted version of the house she had just been in. The air was thick with a suffocating darkness, and the whispers of unseen entities filled her ears. Panic surged through her as she realized she was trapped inside the mirror. She watched in horror as her reflection, now an eerie doppelganger, stepped out of the mirror and into the real world. The doppelganger glanced back at Clara, a sinister smile playing on its lips before it turned and walked away, leaving her behind. The doppelganger, now in Clara's form, returned to her home and life, seamlessly blending in. It mimicked her mannerisms, spoke with her voice, and continued her routines. Clara's friends and family noticed subtle changes, an occasional coldness in her gaze. A strange detachment, but dismissed them as stress from her job. Meanwhile, Clara struggled to find a way out of the mirror realm. She encountered other trapped souls, victims of the mirror's malevolent power, who had long given up hope of escape. Determined not to share their fate, Clara searched for any clue or weakness in the mirror's hold. One day, Clara discovered an old journal hidden in the shadowy depths of the mirror realm. It belonged to a previous victim, a man named Samuel Mercer. His entries detailed his own entrapment and the discovery of a way to weaken the mirror's power, a connection to the real world through an object of personal significance. Clara realized that her locket, a gift from her late mother, could be her key to freedom. She had left it in her bag in the house, now in the possession of her doppelganger. She reached out with all her will, trying to connect with the locket through the mirror's barrier. In the real world, Clara's doppelganger felt a sudden, inexplicable urge to return to the Mercer house. It retrieved the locket from Clara's bag, sensing its importance. As it stood before the mirror, the locket began to glow with a faint light. Clara, sensing the connection, poured all her strength into the locket. The mirror's surface rippled again, and with a surge of power, she was pulled back into the real world. The doppelganger's form shimmered and distorted, unable to maintain its facade. With a final, furious shriek, it was sucked back into the mirror, leaving Clara trembling but free. Clara collapsed to the floor, clutching her locket. The house was silent once more, the mirror now just a lifeless piece of glass. She quickly gathered her things and left the Mercer house, vowing never to return. Back home, Clara tried to explain her ordeal to her friends and family, but few believed her. The experience left her changed, a shadow of her former self. She continued her work as a reporter but avoided stories of the supernatural. The Mercer house remained abandoned, its dark secrets intact. The mirror, now dormant, waited for its next unsuspecting victim. And the legend of the Vanishing Reporter became another whispered tale in the annals of Ashwood's haunted history. Months had passed since Clara Bennett's harrowing escape from the Mercer house. Though she had returned to her life, the memories of the mirror and its twisted doppelganger haunted her dreams. Clara's encounter had left her with a profound sense of dread, a constant fear that the mirror's malevolent power was not yet finished with her. Clara tried to bury herself in work, but the unease never left her. She often felt watched, a prickle on the back of her neck, a shadow flitting in her peripheral vision. She chalked it up to residual paranoia from her ordeal, but the feeling persisted. One evening, as Clara was reviewing her notes from the Mercer house investigation, she noticed something strange. A photograph she had taken of the mirror showed a faint outline of a figure behind her, barely visible but unmistakably there. Her blood ran cold. She had been alone in the house, or so she had thought. The next few days were filled with inexplicable events. Objects in Clara's apartment moved on their own. Doors creaked open, and whispers filled the night. The worst was the mirror in her bedroom. Its surface would ripple, reflecting a twisted, shadowy version of her room. Clara's rational mind fought against the mounting terror, but when she saw her reflection move independently, mimicking her actions a split second too late, she knew she was being hunted. The doppelganger had found a way to reach her. Desperate, Clara turned to Professor Michael Grant, an expert in the occult and paranormal phenomena. She recounted her experience at the Mercer house, showing him the photograph and describing the recent disturbances. The professor listened intently, his expression growing more grave with each detail. "This entity," he said slowly, "is not just a reflection. It's a parasitic spirit, seeking to replace you entirely. The mirror at the Mercer house was its prison, but your escape has weakened the barrier between our world and the mirror realm. You are still connected to it." Clara and Professor Grant devised a plan to return to the Mercer house and sever the connection once and for all. Armed with protective charms and a detailed ritual, they set out under the cover of night, hoping to avoid drawing the entity's attention until they were ready. The house was even more foreboding than Clara remembered. The air was thick with an oppressive weight, and the shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. As they entered, Clara felt the malevolent presence intensify, as if the house itself were aware of their intrusion. They made their way to the parlor where the mirror stood. The surface of the glass rippled violently, the doppelganger's form shifting and writhing within. Professor Grant began the ritual, chanting ancient incantations to weaken the spirit's hold. The doppelganger fought back, its distorted reflection reaching out, trying to break free. Clara felt an icy grip around her throat, an invisible force trying to drag her back into the mirror realm. She struggled, focusing on the locket, the connection to her mother, using it as an anchor. The mirror's surface cracked, spiderweb fractures spreading across the glass. With a final, deafening scream, the doppelganger's form shattered, the pieces of its essence dissipating into the air. The oppressive weight lifted, and the house fell eerily silent. Clara and Professor Grant stood panting, their relief palpable. The connection had been severed, the mirror's power broken. Clara felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in months. They destroyed the mirror, ensuring it could never be used again. Returning home, Clara finally felt safe. The disturbances ceased, and the shadows no longer haunted her. She continued her work as a reporter, but with a newfound appreciation for the thin veil between the mundane and the supernatural. The Mercer house remained abandoned, its dark history fading into obscurity. The mirror, now just shattered glass, held no more power. Clara Bennett's story became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers lurking just beyond the edge of the known world. And while the house stood as a silent witness to the horrors it had once contained, the town of Ashwood slowly forgot, letting the past sink into the shadows from whence it came. If you like the story, like, subscribe and share.